Going on, fam? Just thought I'd direct everybody to the description box below before continuing on. Just go ahead and hit that description box below. Check that out first, and then come back and continue on with this video. Alright, to get it in the full entirety if you haven't seen it all through yet. Alright. So again, just go down to the description box, check that out real quick, and then after you're done with that, we'll come back and start over here. Alright? Alright. How's it going, fam? It's pretty crazy, right? Yeah. So we're gonna carry on, right? Now, did you guys notice how they use chasm? Right? Chasm, right? They were real big on that, right? Chasm means a deep fissure in the earth, rock, or another surface. Gorge, abyss, canyon, ravine, gully, gulf, defile, couloir, crevasse, fissure, crevice, gulch, coulee. I mean, all of these are different words, right? For chasm, right? That's what we was just looking at, right? Yeah, I mean, that was weird to me too. Yeah, as you're aware with this series, we've been digging on the locations, right? Out of Job 30, right? We're gonna go ahead and check out Job 30, verse 1. Uh-oh. Hold up. Wait to get that back. Alright. So we're gonna get Job 30, verse 1. And it says, but now that they are younger than I have, wait, what? My bad, y'all. But now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. Yeah, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, and whom old age was perished. For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste, who cut up mallows by the bushes, and juniper roots for their meat. They were driven forth from among men. They cried out after them as after a thief, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in the caves of the earth, and in the rocks. Among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, yeah, children of base men. They were viler than the earth, and now I am their song. Yeah, I am their byword. I love this little passage right here because it has such a great breakdown, right? Now, I want us to focus right here, right? On cliffs. It says that it's feared, concretely a horrible place or chasm, cliffs, So, yeah, this is part 3. I'd like to welcome everybody. You know, I really appreciate you viewing the information we got dropping right here. We just want to address, right, what's current and what's developing. So, you know, we've been talking about these new men, right? These Nephilim, right? We're talking about where they lived, right? To dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in the caves of the earth, and in the rocks. So yeah, that's what we was just looking at, right? And we just saw a big ass chasm, right? And we were looking at it in Siberia, right? Siberian hell pit, right? I'm talking about chasms. So we got a lot of tabs. We're gonna go ahead and fly through them, and yeah, we're gonna continue. So indigenous peoples of the Americas, right? Now, of course, we know they'll break down all these different terms, right? And I see a lot of people, you know, giving credit to the so-called mixed breed, right? This amalgamated Indian, right, or native. I see a lot of people giving them the credit of being native. But native by definition means that you are naturally from the land, right? You're naturally from the land. So these amalgamated peoples can't be the native if they're amalgamated. Alright? They can't be the Aborigine. Because they have a line that originates in another land. So they technically still carry that line. So this is what this is about, right? For part 3. I don't think they should even be referred to as native peoples, especially if we're talking about them being a part of a migration. You can't be native if you migrated, alright? So, when we're talking about Aborigines, we're talking about Indians. Now, so-called natives, right, don't want to be referred to as Amerindian or Indians of the Americas. You know, we're dealing with the West Indies, right? Being referred to as the Americas at one point. And we know with the West Indies, indigenous Aboriginals, the autochtons, right? We know what the autochtons in the Caribbean look like. So I can understand why a so-called native wouldn't want to be referred to as an Indian. But these so-called native people aren't necessarily native, right? If they're part of an ancestry or a genealogical line that brings them from another land, right? That would make them foreigners. It says indigenous peoples are commonly known in Canada as Aboriginal peoples, which includes not only First Nations and Arctic Inuits, but also the minority population of First Nations, European mixed race Métis people who identify culturally and ethnically with indigenous peoplehood. This right here, right? Sounds like Webster's, right? It says migration into the continents. The specifics of Paleo Indian migration to and throughout the Americas, including the exact dates and routes traveled, are the subject of ongoing research and discussion. According to archaeological and genetic evidence, North and South America were the last continents in the world with human habitation. During the Wisconsin glaciation, falling sea levels allowed people to move across the land bridge of Beringia that joined Siberia to northwest North America, Alaska. Alaska was a glacial refugium because it had low snowfall, allowing a small population to exist. It says the Laurentide ice sheet covered most of North America, blocking nomadic inhabitants and confining them to Alaska for thousands of years. So, if we're talking about migrations, how are you indigenous? How are you the autochthon if you migrated here? If your land is in Siberia, which is a chasm, right? How are you a native? Alright? So this is what we're going to be digging on, alright? Because we know who the natives are. We know who the indigenous autochthon people are, alright? And that's why you hear this music in the background, right? Because we're going to war with these frequencies. Every time I jump on here and talk to y'all, I go to war with these frequencies. These low vibing frequencies, alright? That distort and continue to press lies over the airwaves, alright? This is for my tribe. For my copper color races. So yeah, y'all see it. Alright? It told you that they were blocked. It says most of North America blocking nomadic inhabitants and confining them. We're talking about imprisonment. When you're confined, you're in prison. Right? So, these are Siberian people. Right? We're just looking at some Siberians, right? So they want to say this is the native, right? And this is why every time you hear about a so-called Indian, you're so quick to reject your culture, because you got these people in your mind, programmed, imagery, repetitively. But these are not the copper color races. These are Siberians, however. Alright. So, they said they were confined to Alaska, right? So this is the Alaskan natives. And, right? And this is, what the Alaskan natives comprise of. Alright, it says who in turn belong to what? Alright, 13 Alaskan Native regional corporations. It says ancestors of the Alaskan natives are known to have migrated into the area thousands of years ago. Alright, they migrated in at least 2 different ways. It says they never migrated to southern areas. It says for this reason, genetic studies show how they are not closely related to Native Americans in South America. Alright? So we're talking about the copper color races. We're talking about the autochthon people. You can't be native if you migrated here. Alright? That's called an immigrant with the E. Alright? Siberia. Says Siberia has historically been a part of Russia since the 17th century. Part of Russia. Right. It says the origin of the name is unknown. Some sources say that Siberia originates from the Siberian Tartar word for sleeping land. Another account sees the name as the ancient tribal etonym of the Sirta, right? Sirtia, right? A folk which spoke a language that later developed into the Ugric language. This ethnic group was later assimilated to the Siberian Tartar people. Alright. They give reference to north. Alright. It says that Su meaning water and Bur meaning wildland. It is said that the neighboring Chinese, Arabs, and Mongolians, who have similar names for the region, would have not known Russian, right? But they have these backgrounds for the names, right? Connecting the Chinese, Arabs, and Mongolians to each other as far as Siberia goes. Alright. So yeah, y'all can dig on that if y'all want. But we came here mainly for this part. Right. It says at least 3 species of human lived in southern Siberia around 40,000 years ago. Alright. Homo sapien, Homo Neanderthal, and the Denisovans. Says the region is of paleontological significance as it contains bodies of prehistoric animals from the Pleistocene epoch preserved in ice or permafrost. My bad. Permafrost though, right? You wanna let me highlight it? Guess not. Permafrost. Alright, so this is a pretty a horrible area, right? Siberia. Permafrost. In geology, permafrost is ground including rock, soil, or below the freezing point of water 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright, so it's always frozen. The ground is permanently frozen. Permafrost. It's always frozen. Alright? It's in the Arctic and Antarctic regions. Alright. It's really cold in these regions right here, right? And the video said this is one of the coldest spots in the world, right? Or is the coldest spot. So it's permanently frozen. Now, we read right here, right, that they were covered in ice, confining them to Alaska, right, for thousands of years, right? Alright, you see? This is what we're talking about. Right? So we're just talking about ice everywhere. Now, given what you know about the flood and what happened to the flood and why the flood was necessary, and then you have these permafrost type of land situations, right, where everything's permanently frozen, and you think about how these people, right, were stuck in this ice for thousands of years, preventing them from coming over into North America. Alright, and we read how they didn't go down into the southern region, right? So they stayed in the ice where it was cold still. Alright, these so-called Native Americans, right? These people from Siberia, right? These Alaskan natives, right? It's what you're used to seeing, right? As so-called Native American, right? Who are really Siberians. Alright? Right here, right? We have the land of Nod. It says land of Nod is to go to sleep, based on to nod or to nod off, meaning to fall asleep. In the Torah and in the Old Testament, the land of Nod is a place mentioned in the book of Genesis, located east of Eden, where Cain was exiled by God after Cain had murdered his brother Abel. Nod, to wander, therefore to dwell in the land of Nod, is usually taken to mean that one that takes up a wandering life, to wander in the land of Nod, right? And they said that it means to fall asleep, right? And when we were digging on Siberia, it says the sleeping land. So we just found the land of Nod, right? The land of Nod is right here in Siberia, right? With this giant ass chasm, right? As the home of Cain, right? Y'all with me, fam? So, these residents, right? These residents in the land of Nod, right? They looked a certain way, right? Let's check it out. Now, this look like it's pretty much on point, right? As far as the topic goes, right? So, yeah, man, everybody, you know, want to know who or where the pale people come from, right? This so-called new man, this Neanderthal, right? And the sorts of. Now, I'm not saying that the Neanderthal is, you know, this seed of Cain, but what I'm saying is that they're all linked up. They're all connected, right? Because when we were dealing with the part one, right? The part one in the video, we came across these guys. And they look pretty similar, right? I would say so. Wouldn't you say so? Right? I'm talking about the land of Nod, right? In the land of Cain, where the Most High exiled him to after he murdered his brother Abel. Right? In the land of Nod, which they say is to go to sleep. And right here it says the etymology for Siberia originates from the Siberian Tartar word for sleeping land. Alright? So technically, if these Siberians are indigenous, wouldn't that make them this seed of Cain? As Job 30 was saying, right? They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in the caves of the earth, and in the rocks. Chasms, cliffs, horrible place, right? And that's what that video was showing us, right? This horrible place, right? Alright, so we're gonna carry on, right? Alright, so the next one we got the Arctic region, right? It says it's a polar region located in the northernmost part of Earth. Alright, the Arctic consists of the Arctic Ocean, adjacent seas, and parts of Alaska, United States, Canada, Finland, Greenland, Denmark, Iceland, Norway, Russia, and Sweden. Land within the Arctic region has seasonally varying snow and ice cover with predominantly treeless permafrost containing tundra. Arctic seas contain seasonal sea ice in many places. This spot is permanently frozen. So these indigenous peoples came out the ice. So think about the flood and you think about the survivors, and bam, you looking at them, right? I mean, how else, right? I mean, it says it right here in their own confession that they were confined to Alaska for thousands of years. It says the ice sheet covered most of North America, blocking nomadic inhabitants. They couldn't get in. Alright? You were protected. Alright? The Most High had already had you set apart. Alright? It says the Laurentide ice sheet was a massive a sheet of ice that covered millions of square kilometers, including most of Canada and a large portion of northern United States, multiple times during the Quaternary glacial epochs. Alright? And it tells you that it covered all of these regions. Even a little more. Right? It's icy, right? So they say all of this was frozen. Right? All of this was frozen. So we know when we're dealing with the tribes, all of this is tropical people. All of this is tropical people, right? And down into South America, right? Cuba and the islands and all that. So this is all frozen, right? And this is where they made it from. This is their everyday. Right? That's what the video said, right? This is their habitat, right? They make it work. And you wonder why they want your land, right? Why they come over here to replace you, right? I mean, look at this, man. They tired of living in the cold, right? They tired. It's cold, right? Starting to make a lot of sense, though, right? I mean, we're talking about boundaries and territories, right? We're talking about what the Most High allotted to who and where. I mean, imagine waking up as your birthright to ice. Alright? So yeah, man. I mean, they did a lot of migration, right? So, we're gonna go ahead and do another video. Making sure that, you know, they know we represent fair use. Alright? So we're gonna go ahead and clip this real quick. And yeah, we're gonna check out this video. Just a quick little confession, right? Because I mean, we're talking about giving these people the title of native, right? But they constantly admit that they're migrants. So why are we giving them the credit? Especially if we're identifying them as descendants of Siberian peoples, which came from the land of Nod, right? Alright. We'll be back to it.
The government permit is required to enter this treacherous terrain. Few people have ever been able to explore the area where this cave was allegedly found.
If, in fact, there are artifacts that exist from Egypt or from the Orient in the United States, and they predate history as we know it, it would completely change everything we know about our own history. We'd have to rewrite our history books.
Is it possible that G.E. Kincaid really did find Egyptian and Oriental artifacts in a cave in the Grand Canyon? And if so, how did they get here? Some ancient astronaut theorists believe the answer can be found by examining the stories of the Native American tribes of the Southwest, who say there is a connection between the Grand Canyon and star beings. According to the Hopi, just before a catastrophic event struck the area where their ancestors lived, these star beings led them to safety. The Native Americans followed an object in the sky night and day to the Grand Canyon, where they found refuge. Some ancient astronaut theorists believe the answer can be found by examining the stories of the Native American tribes of the Southwest, who say there is a connection between the Grand Canyon and star beings. According to the Hopi, just before a catastrophic event struck the area where their ancestors lived, these star beings led them to safety. The Native Americans followed an object in the sky night and day to the Grand Canyon, where they found refuge.
The Hopi believed that they were taken to an underground or subterranean city where they were nurtured and progressed through levels to emerge eventually on the surface of the earth. They emerged through a hole called Sipapu. It's a very holy place to the Hopi nation. The Sipapu in the Grand Canyon, we know there is such a place.
This is our Garden of Eden, where we had the beginning of the present world.
To emerge eventually on the surface of the earth. They emerged through a hole called Sipapu. It's a very holy place to the Hopi nation. The Sipapu in the Grand Canyon, we know there is such.
This is our Garden of Eden, where we had the beginning of the present world. We hold the Grand Canyon as a very reverent place that came.
They emerged through a hole called Sipapu. It's a very holy place to the Hopi nation. The Sipapu in the Grand Canyon, we know there is such a place.
This is our Garden of Eden, where we had the beginning of the present world. We hold the Grand Canyon as a very reverent place that came out after the last catastrophe into the present day system that we have.
Alright, so you remember from the last one, right? Or from the first one, actually from part 1, we were dealing with the grave pit culture, right, fam? Alright, so let's cut the sounds back on, and we're gonna continue. So we're dealing with grave, right? The etymology says excavation in earth for reception of a dead body. Grave, ditch, trench, cave. It says grave or tomb, cave, ditch, to dig, to scratch, to scrape. It says grave, tomb, to dig. Right? It says to engrave, to dig, dig up, engrave, carve, chisel. Right? It says to dig, engrave, inquire into, to dig, delve, right? Delve. It says to dig and to carve, right? So we're talking about caves, right? Right? Trenches and caves, right? Graves, right? Talking about dead bodies, right? Talking about graves and tombs. Now, the Yamna culture was called the pit grave culture. You guys remember the pit grave culture, right? They were dealing with grave, right? Terrible, right? Dreadful, right? Oppressive, hard to bear. Alright? Grievous. Right? It says they cried after them as after a thief. They cried, right? They were in grief. Right? And the Most High separated them from you, right? Sent them to their graves and pits, right? Pit, right? It says hole or cavity, right? Now, didn't they say that that person came out of, or the so-called native came out of a hole, right? He said he came out of a hole, right? Now that's a pit, hole, cavity, right? Water hole, well, pit, grave. They said they survived through a great catastrophe, right? And they were made to go underground, right? It says a well, right? A pit shaft, right? Meaning abode of evil spirits, hell. Now, isn't that how we started this video, right? This presentation, with this being called what? The Siberian hell pit. And we just checked out pit, right? Alright. Nomad, right? It says a wandering group of Arabia. A wandering group, right? Wander, right? I'm talking about the land of Nod, right? Which is to go to sleep, right? The wanderers, right? The nomad. Alright, so look out for part 1 on this series, because it's coming. I'm gonna drop that for y'all in a few days. Part 1, the nomad, alright? But yeah, it says roaming around, right? Roaming, roving, wandering, right? To find pastures for flocks and herds, right? It says to pasture, pasturage, grazing, literally land allotted. Alright? We're talking about nomadic people. Ones that don't have a set territory, right? Now, when we're dealing with the Indigenous American, right? We're talking about the autochthon, right? Now, the autochthon, the Aboriginal, right, is the original American, right? The Indian, right? Paleo means old or ancient, especially relating to the geological past, right? So the Paleo Indian is the ancient Indian or original, right? And we read here, where was it exactly? Where was it? Well, you guys remember how we read that basically they didn't go into they didn't go into the south, right? The Siberians stayed where the ice was. So they knew that the DNA between those in the South Americas were different from those closer to the ice, right? I was trying to find that part, but it's somewhere, it's lost in here. We'll come back to that later. But let's continue, right? So yeah, we're talking about Paleo being ancient, right? And they say the Paleo Indians. Mind you, we're talking about who? The autochthon, the original, right? Now, they want to call these people ancient, right? But here we have Homo sapien, right? Which they say means wise man. Now, I've never seen this right here before. But I'm going to run with it. Because I know some drop on this wise man that, you know, maybe they don't. But I'm going to show y'all a little something. We've been digging on Neanderthal, right? And Neanderthal means new man, right? So for the Homo sapien, who they say is the modern anatomically human, right? This is their version for Homo sapien. Now, mind you, we've been talking about these Asiatic peoples, right? Being an ancient race. So how can they be the modern human, right? And this ancient pale race. This ancient Paleo Indian. You can't be both. Homo sapien, right? If he's the face of the Homo sapien, if they're the face of the Homo sapiens, they cannot be the Paleo Indians as well. Alright, fam? Paleo being what? Ancient or older, right? The original. Now they say they're the Homo sapiens, right? The modern humans. Now Neanderthal means new man. Keep this in mind, right? Because when we hit Webster's 1828, right, we get a native of America originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper color races. Now it says that the name is applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America, to Europeans, right? Now we've been digging on what? On Siberia, right? Siberia is where? A part of Russia, right? It's part of Russia, right? Okay. So it says the Europeans, but now applied to descendants of Europeans born in America. So Americans were the original races of copper color, right? Who were here in America before the European got here. And people say, oh, what European, what European? I mean, if Siberia is telling you that it's been a part of Russia, right? But watch, y'all see. So, this is Lucia, right? Now it says Lucia is the name for upper Paleolithic period, right? Of a Paleo Indian woman. Paleo being what? Ancient. Who was found in a cave in Brazil, alright? Paleo Indian woman. An ancient Indian woman, right? It says some archaeologists believe the young woman may have been of the first wave, alright, of immigrants to South America. It's funny how they want to use the immigrants right here, but they don't use it for the so-called Siberians who clearly migrated. But you're going to take the Paleo Indian who was found here and put the term immigrant to show how she got to South America. Anyways, we dodge hijacks though, right? So all we need is this part, right? That she was a Paleo Indian woman who was from South America, right? All right. You skip down, right, to the phenotypical analysis. It says her facial features include a narrow oval cranium, projecting face, and pronounced chin. Strikingly dissimilar to most Native Americans. So we're talking about a Paleo Indian who is strikingly dissimilar, right, to most Native Americans and their indigenous Siberian forebears. Boom, there we go. All right, they just told you that they have Siberian forebears. We just saw who these Siberians were, right? So let's continue to dig on her. It says anthropologists have variously described Lucia's features as resembling those of Negroids, Indigenous Australians, Melanesians, and the Negritos of Southeast Asia. It says American. A native of America originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races. Copper-colored races. Copper-colored races. A native of America originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races. It says Lucia's features are described as resembling those of Negroids. So-called Negro. Again, we're talking about the indigenous autochthon American woman. One more time. Because it's about her. It's about you. Alright? Now we're talking about copper-colored people, right? We're talking about Americans, right? And she was in Brazil, right? To be of the first, right? Paleo Indian. Alright? Paleo means ancient, right? Copper colored races were the original Americans, right? And See, it was found here, right? So they want to say that she's like, right? It says the Paleo Indian predecessors that lived in Southeast Asia, right? For tens of thousands of years. So we're talking about Afro-Asiatics, right? Right? And she was a Paleo Indian, right? Right? Paleo Indian woman, right? So when we dig on the Hebrew language, right? And when we see that it is of the Afro-Asiatic language, right? And that the earliest examples of written Paleo Hebrew. So if you got Afro-Asiatic and Paleo, I mean, come on, Indian Hebrew. Put the two together. Copper color races, right? And they're telling you in her phenotype, right? In her phenotypical analysis, right? That she features that of the Negroids. Paleo Hebrew. So again, where are we at? Where is it at? My fault, fam. I'm trying to find out where we had the oh man. Oh well. Y'all know I was trying to find the oh, here it goes, this guy. So the modern human, right? The Homo sapien, right? Now, they can't be the ancient Indians and the Homo sapiens at the same time. And that's the point we're proving with this. Alright? Paleo, right? Paleo Indian woman, right? Who is strikingly dissimilar to most Native Americans and their indigenous Siberian forebears. Alright? So she looked nothing like them. And she was here first. And it wasn't in no ice, alright? Paleo, right? Talking about Israelites, right? Hebrew language, right? Alright? So, we're talking about where the Siberians come from, right? They come from this chasm, right? This deep fissure in the earth, right? This canyon or this abyss, right? So let's see what they get into, right? I mean, this is every day for them. Right? says raw animal food diets, right? It says raw animal food is believed that foods cooked above this temperature have lost much of their nutritional value and are harmful to the body. Alright? And then it says down here, the Nenet tribe of Siberia eat a traditional diet consisting of mostly raw meats, organ meats, and raw berries. Those Inuit people still follow their traditional diet, eat a partially raw diet including large amounts of raw meats, organ meats, and aged raw foods in the form of caribou and among other foods. And we're still talking Siberians, right? Who are a part of Russia, right? In that sleeping land, right? Right? In the land of Nod, right? So we're still talking about, right? And the next people, right? It says are an indigenous people to the northern Arctic Russia. Alright? They're indigenous to Russia. Alright. These are the Inuits, right? They are also known as the Eskimo, right? And they're part of this eating raw, right? They eat the food raw, right? So that's who these Eskimos are, right? Now it says the Inuit are the descendants of what anthropologists call the Thule culture. They are the descendants of what anthropologists call the Thule culture, who emerged from western Alaska around 1000 CE. They had split from the related Aleut group about 4,000 years ago and from northeastern Siberian migrants, possibly related to the Chukchi language group later or group still earlier. They spread eastwards across the Arctic. They displaced the related Dorset culture, the last major Paleo Eskimo culture called the Tunit. Alright, it says Inuit languages or legends speak of the Tunits as giants, people who were taller and stronger than the Inuit. Alright, so you guys can go ahead and continue to check that out, right? But the thing that caught my attention was this Thule culture, right? Because I'm pretty sure you guys know of the Thule society and all of that. I mean, it says that these are the descendants, these Inuits, the descendants, right? It says the Thule people, right? Or Proto-Inuits were the ancestors of all modern Inuits, right? It says the appellation Thule originates from the location of Thule. Alright? Evidence supports the idea that the Thule, also the Thorset, but to a lesser degree, were in contact with the Vikings, who had reached the shores of Canada in the 11th century. Alright? Mind you, we're still talking about Siberians, right? And how they get down, right? It says the Alouettes, right? Who are usually known in the Alouette language by whatever this is, right? It says both and the islands are divided between the U.S. state of Alaska and the Russian administrative division of Kamchatka Krai, right? So we're talking about Russia once again, right? Once again, right? And they're telling you that this tribe that gave, basically that made way for the Inuit and the Thule and the Nenets, right? This is their ancestor right here, right? Who shared Alaska with Russia. So they are people of Russia, right? And Siberia, right? This is Russia, right? It says it is a country in Eurasia. So we've been dealing with the Europeans this whole time, man. See, like the bro get to the root of it all when he was breaking down the Slavic people, right? He put all of these people in check. Right? I mean, we were talking about the Slavs, right? The slaves. This is who we're talking about, fam. Alright? These are the Europeans, right? That the Webster's 1828 version is talking about, right? Before Christopher Columbus. You have to bring up another one, right? Because we're talking about the copper colored races who were found here by the European. And then you got pushed out and then they started becoming you. The Most High sent them to chasms, right? And caves, right? Pits and graves, right? And then they rolled up on you. See, they said that she was resembling those Negroids, right? From these regions, right? So we're going to take a look. And some Afro-Asians. Talking about you, fam. Alright? So, we're gonna go ahead and get ready to close it on out, fam. We got one more for you. We're gonna ride out like that. Again, much love to the tribe. Much love to all the Talk Time people. All my indigenous copper color races. Yisrael. Yisrael's for you. Hope y'all found this informative. This is for all my fam, my Talk Times. To everybody subscribed, to everybody watching, to everybody viewing, to everybody choosing up with the Creator. If you vibing with the Most High, this is for you. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and ride it on out, fam. And I'll be hitting y'all up with another one pretty soon, in the next few days or so, with that Nomad series, alright? Appreciate the love. Continue to stay strong, stay powerful. Keep your faith in the Most High. Keep sharing that info. Continue to win. Stay Israel. Stay indigenous. Stay pure. Stay at Talk Time. Set the record straight. Alright? Alright, so we're gonna ride out one more time. Getting at y'all soon, fam. Have a good one.
Take a seat. Long as the working today is very quiet. This is happening.